Yep. Rip out all the batteries and everything. Fire alarms, pacemakers, the whole works.
Sorry,
Uh,
Grandma.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who's rocking his brand new headset of a year ago, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing okay. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, I had some technical difficulties. I was not able to get my normal headphones to work because my PC was not acting right. So I'm wearing the um Elite, the Pulse Elite, PS5 Pulse Elite. I forget what the whole name is. Headphones, and they're pretty dorky. They're pretty dorky.
I thought it was your low budget Ferengi cosplay, so
It's yeah, it's definitely it's definitely very Star Trek. Um, they're just they're just really dumb looking, but this is this is this is just where we are right now.
well, you can use those with your PlayStation VR too, right? That
So
was one of the
yeah, so that was kind of part of the reason. So with the PSVR, they have to go on underneath it, and the PSVR 2 they have to go on underneath it, and after a while, like an hour or so, it really starts to press on the ears and kind of creates basically a vice for your head, and it just kind of wears on you. It's better overall. Like, well, no, it's worse overall, but it's better sound quality, and you're like, dang, this is really cool the way it kind of all works together. But it's just too. I'm sure for other people it works, but for me, it's just too. It's just too much. Though I think it does, like when you do have the whole thing on, it does look as dorky as it is. It does also kind of look pretty cool in a way. Um,
whatever you say to help you sleep better at night.
I mean, I don't really do it for aesthetics, but yeah, I think like these Pulse Elites don't actually they're more expensive, but they don't actually have as good a review rating on Amazon or wherever I bought them as the regular Pulse, the next level down or whatever. Um, but yeah, so these are not new. I've had these for like a year. I just usually just wear them with my whenever I'm playing multiplayer games on PS5. But
All right.
yeah,
So, all right, speaking about what we've been playing, what have you been playing?
so I started playing this game from last year. I had it on my list from last year. It came out toward the end of 25, called a game called Grief Like a Stray Dog. Um, Strange art style. Was pretty sure that I knew that it was going to be kind of a sad type game or like a feels type game, you know. Um, and I was right about that. Part of the selling point for it for me was that it was a very short game. Um, as I do with basically every game now, I looked up how long how long to beat for it, and it was like 1 to 2 hours. I think my playtime came in under 2 hours. Um, and so that was kind of the selling point for me going in. When I started playing this game, I was pretty glad to know that it was fairly short. Um, it's it has like a strange sort of, I would say, pencil drawing, crown painterly drawing art style, and it has very few animations. Most of it is kind of in still images. Um, what this game is ultimately about is Russia, the home front, during World War II. And the premise is that you are a young girl, um, somewhere probably around 10 or 12 years old, maybe. And you have two brothers. Your mom is sick, and your father is at war. And your mom's job is to deliver mail for the post office. But she's sick and she can't. And so you have to go do her route for her, or else you won't get to eat. Basically, you won't have enough food. You won't get to eat or something like that. Um, and so, if you know very much about Russia during World War II, um, they lost a lot of people. They lost more than any other country in terms of war for sure, and I think just overall. Um, so so they had so according to this game, basically when somebody was killed in action or maybe even just missing in action, they would get a letter, and the way that this game portrays that is a black letter with a kind of a red tag on it. And so your first day of delivering letters is pretty normal, but the second day you start to have to deliver um, letters that are the KIA notice, and sort of you have to like hand deliver them because it's the 40s and people are anxious to get their letters, a lot of them. And so you have to talk to these people and kind of look at them in the eye as you basically over and over again tell them like the worst news that they're ever going to get in their life. So,
Yeah, like the first instances of that is there's you actually get to choose whether or not you want to deliver the bad news or if you can lie because it's an older elderly blind person, and so they wanted you to read the letter, and it gives you the option to tell them the truth or to pretend like everything's fine.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I told the truth.
yeah, me
That's the
too. I just didn't feel like it would be a very pleasant thing later on if I didn't. But yeah, so there's not very many choices like that in particular. Um, but there are a few, and like so when you are going from house to house, they kind of gives you like I call it a world map, but it's more like just like your neighborhood map. And there is this so the game is mostly in kind of pastel white, green, blue, green, gray, with like the sun being kind of like a desaturated yellow. But then there is this dog that's on the map, and it's a simple drawing of a dog, but it's in red, and it seems to be mostly symbolic, but it is kind of striking, and it sort of it doesn't really follow you around the map, but it's kind of always around where you're like about to be. And I don't really think it really matters in the long run. It's kind of just sort of a symbol. Um
Well, I mean, one of the first houses you come across, and you're delivering a letter, like these 2 sisters, they they scribble the dog, like, on the map or on or just over your entire screen real quick. They just have it kind of really come in quick and then wipe it clean, and then one of the girls is like, "Did you see that?" And they're like, "What?" Like, I saw a dog," and, it was, kind of like the impending grim, as it were, or something.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the like it's sort of a symbol for the game, but you are also kind of like the way a stray dog like just wanders around a neighborhood. Um you are kind of that. You are this grief that wanders around the neighborhood, and just kind of comes to different people's houses unwelcome and unasked for, and it's so 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 it's pretty grim, but it doesn't hit you over the head with it quite as hard as maybe I'm making it sound. At least I don't think. Um, so I don't really think of this game really as much of a game. I don't want to say the word experience either, um, because that's pretty trite. I think of it kind of more like a student project. Um, Not to belittle it, but it's it's not really something that I feel like I can be critical of in the way that I can be critical of other games that are trying to get my money and are trying to entertain me. Like this game isn't really it doesn't really feel like it's trying to entertain me. It just feels like it's trying to relate to me. So I kind of so because of that and because it's so short, I can kind of forgive it for basically being um, I feel like there's a lot of places where this game could be more finished, more polished, and have kind of more going on. Um, and that's sort of where the criticism of it kind of comes in is that I think that the translation work um, or that the translation of the dialogue and stuff could use some work. A little bit, quite a bit of it is it's not bad or wrong. It's just sort of not particularly artful. Sometimes the characters don't really sound like they sound like they're speaking kind of broken English, and it's like, well, these are Russian people speaking their native language. They really shouldn't sound like foreigners. They should sound like natives. Um, and it's like they should sound like native English speakers because I'm playing this in English, you know. So I feel like that could be a bit better. Um, there could be more. There could be more gameplay. There could be kind of there could just kind of be more depth overall, like kind of a more finished aspect is what I would kind of like to see from this. Um, that being said, I think that for what it is, it's fine. It wasn't expensive. I even got it on sale. It wasn't expensive. And it was pretty effective in kind of trying to convey sort of what it was trying to do. And at the end, not to give away spoilers, but at the end when they're playing the credits, they they seemingly play audio from the 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 actual person that this game is based on. It seems like it was based on one of the creators' actual like grandmothers or something who was alive during that time, and she talks a little bit about her experience, just like that's like just tiny snippets. Um, so I was kind of um, more impressed by that because it like once I saw that I was like, okay, I figured this was a real experience to someone at some point because of sort of how it's conveyed, but I wasn't sure. So once I heard that, I was like, okay, this is I was thinking something a little bit different, but the art style, it does need more, but it is cool. Like what they decided to do with it was, effective enough, and yeah, um, it's not a long game. If it seems like something that you want to experience rather than play, then I think it's something that would be fine. Uh, yeah, I'm glad I played it. And that's really probably all I can say about it.
Yeah, so the way I look at it is so based off the color palette, it's and the way it's artistically drawn, it makes it's suitable for the fact that you're looking at it kind of portrayed through the eyes of a young teenage girl, and she's doing this postal route because her mother is sick. She has two kids to take care, like two younger siblings to help take care of. So she's having to step up and fill in the shoes of her mother to help out with the mail delivery.
Right.
She is uh, so it's like, in that sense, it's also kind of like coming of age a little bit or trying to,
Mm.
experience the world. Uh, the the minimalist color, palette and how it's almost like crayon drawing, not quite, but it's kind of portrays that innocence or also the
Mm,
haze of your memory, as it were, trying to remember that far back.
yeah.
Um, and I think it does a good job with that. It is I look at it as a walking simulator kind of,
Yeah.
you know, because it is a lot of what you're doing. You're going in it's not so it's not a game per se in the traditional sense of, to jump and to run, uh, which is fine. The story is there, and if you're wanting to experience the story, then this is most definitely for you. It is, uh, it's meant to be short. It's meant to be, a concise little thing. It kind of reminds me in a lot of that dragon cancer.
Mm,
Uh, so it's meant to convey the story and convey the feelings and emotions behind it. Um, and yeah, that's really all I got to say about that. It isn't like you mentioned. It's like 90 minutes long. Give or take, depending on how fast you read. The only part that I found kind of frustrating, which is a good and bad thing, is in the setting. I automatically go to settings. First thing I do in almost any game, and then I noticed that I'm playing on the PlayStation, and you have to control everything via cursor.
mhm.
So obviously built for a mouse. The cursor is I felt obscenely slow. So I cranked it fully, and it was still pretty slow. Um, Especially when you enter an area, to go to deliver mail, and the person is on the opposite side of the screen from your mouse cursor, then you have to slowly pan over, click on them, and then when the next scene, you go to a you transition to the next scene, then you have to go slowly over the other side. I'm like that. I understand. You don't want it to be very. You don't. Want, you. It's not a speed running game. The goal is not to. You kind of want it to be slow and heavy, but at the same time, it was just a little too much, and
Y
that was the only real knock against it I had was, like,
there
I want I like I said, I understand you don't wanna be like, "Okay, zip, zip, zip," click on the next thing. Um, it's meant to show time, and it's meant to be, like, a lethargic experience.
Yeah, especially when you're handing over the death letters, that it is supposed to be painfully slow, and I think that it is painfully slow. It's also, to your point, annoyingly slow. Um, and
So
that's
when you
like,
actually hand letters to somebody, whether it's a good letter or a bad letter, they'll have an animation of 2 hands coming together, one person having the letter, and it's just like you reach out halfway, and then the other person reaches out and grabs the letter and then pulls back, like, so that slowly going forward. It is meant to be deliberate,
yeah,
and but because it's such a zoomed in focus on just the arm, and it's just you using the thumbstick to control the hand to go forward, it kinda reminds me of a Wario game, and that's so I couldn't see that
okay.
without being like a Wario mini game of like, "Quick, hand the letter, quick, slap it out of their hand," or something. I don't know, it's just weird, like, my brain went there of all places
It's just
because it's such a
it's just
disembodied, like, paper. It felt like a paper cutout of a hand. You could have, like, a on a stick, have this little weird animation, so it just once again, I
it's
understand it's supposed to be heavy, it's supposed to be lethargic, it's supposed to be this embodying this emotion and the weight of what you're doing. Uh,
so you're
I
saying it's a grief like a stray Wario?
something along those lines. Once again, it's like I don't mean to do a disservice, but those two
Yeah.
things, just between the mouse cursor and the handing of the letters, I understand the logic behind it, and
Yeah, but it's
I
it's things like that that are like, okay, this needs more polish. You need to go back and kind of look at what you're doing here. You need to find a different way, a better way to convey the slowness and the painfulness of what you're trying to do. Like it's that's why I
I
kind
think
of look at it like,
I think maybe a 20% tweak. Not it doesn't have to be lightning fast, but maybe just a little bit like 20% faster, 25% faster tweak of movement speed from what they currently have. Um, and like I said, I already moved the mouse cursor to the max. But like I said, the point of being slow is as you're moving from house to house, you kind of I never went a quote unquote improper route. Um, but you can see the sun as you click onto the next house. The sun moves as your progression of day goes by. So
Hmm.
I maybe I'd go back into it and try it, but, like, there's some houses that are on the outskirts. So, obviously, like, here I am the start point. I'm gonna hit the houses nearby me first and make my way to that longhouse. I'm like, "Well, what happens if I just go kind of all over the place? Go to the longhouse, go back over here, then see how if see if I can burn out my day, like, and doing an improper run, as it were." Um,
Yeah.
I just don't know if there's anything behind it all, but once again, it's a tight little story. If you like something similar, or if you want, if you, this sounds up your alley, or like I said, I feel like it's supposed to be kind of similar to that Dragon Cancer, which is also very
Well,
emotionally heavy.
it's definitely a
Um,
game that you don't want to sit down and be like, okay, entertain me. Like this is kind of like a Schindler's List sort of type of watch, where you don't really go into that expecting, 10 things I hate about you, or like,
you're not here for a good time. You're
yeah,
here for
long
a
time.
solid story, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like you don't sit down on a date night and be like, let's have this fun experience. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's a decent enough moment. So I'm like, and because it's so short, it really is a one sitting kind of experience, which is nice.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of those, so it kind of is memorable for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. For kind of in the same vein of a sit down experience, something you can finish in one sitting, I went ahead and played the Thank Goodness You're Here. This one came out a few years ago, back in 2024. I don't know when it hit consoles. I think it might have hit like maybe 2025. I can't actually remember that. But it was on my radar for a while. And uh, it's it has a very it's an event alright, boil this down, is it's an adventure game that has your movement D-pad and only 2 buttons. You have a jump and a slap button. Um,
Okay.
Not an interact, but a slap. So you just go around slapping, things, people, what have you. And it's very British. It's kind of has this weird funky art style that from it's like a reminiscent in a way of like a I don't know, like a Bob's Burger, or like, Rick and Morty or something like that. It's kind of an ugly aesthetic, but has its own weird quirky charm. Um, and this game is gonna make it or break it for you if you like the humor. Um, Now I find the humor to be a little bit of a one trick pony, so it's like, yeah, it's funny, it's novel at times, but then other times it's just like, okay, I'm done. Like,
Hmm.
but the idea of it is you're a very tiny man, like that your own scale, like, changes depending on where you are, but you're anywhere from like, I don't know, a foot tall to like a few inches or something like that. You kind of shrink in certain situations. And you are working for a company, and your goal is to go out to this small town and help give them what they need, which doesn't really say what it is. It's just literally like that's it. Like we need to help them. You need to go out there and uh, it starts off kind of strong because, like, you're stuck in the boss's office, and the way you leave the boss's office is pretty funny. Um, the Then it immediately cuts to an opening cutscene of, like, live action footage of what seems like old, reel from, like, I don't know, like, the '50s or something like that, the '60s. So it's just, like, grainy, like, camera footage from back then, and it doesn't tell you what time, what of society you're in, so you don't know if it's modern setting. It could be, and that's kind of the a charm of it as well. The idea is you are waiting for the mayor, and as you're waiting for him, you then just get tired, and you can just get up and leave, and you help the townsfolk. And the townsfolk just automatically take to you and ask you for assistance. There is Just by experiencing the game and going around as you're slapping, you slap people to interact with them to get them to just talk to you. You can go up to different items and objects and slap them, and they kind of like go up to a garbage bag, slap it, and bust open. Uh, Hit a mailbox, and it'll get dented. Just once, it's like just an extra texture, and you get into very weird and quirky situations. You kind of start to pick up who the people are in town. Uh, and like one of the very big intros in the like it's a bunch of trailers, kind of something like what was it, Tropic Thunder, where you have just a bunch of those trailers. Well, they're giving you products for the neighborhood, the town. Like this one baker makes tiny pies, very tiny meat pies, like the size of your thumbnail. And then someone else is their big shtick is they make really big pies. And there's competition there. You end up meeting the one of the pie makers, and they're like, "We need more ingredients." So then you have to go to the butcher, and you're helping them. It's a bunch of fetch quests. It is technically an adventure game, and there's majority of things are missable. Like if you can just beeline it. Uh, and I will do the slight spoiler of in the very beginning if you are patient and you just wait, it will reward you with a game clear if you just wait for the mayor.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so what happens is like the secretary goes, "Yeah, it'll be a couple hours," and so then you're just sitting there. And then first thing I did is I went, "Wait a minute," and I pulled up my phone and I just Googled it. I'm like, I'm like, it's like, "Can you beat the game by waiting?" And then it was like, "Yeah, wait, it takes like 15 minutes." So I'm like, "Okay." I put down my controller, picked up my phone, played on my phone for a little bit, and then eventually the mayor opens the door, says, "Oh yeah, like I've been waiting for you. Come on in."
Is
You
it
come in, and then credits roll, and and the trophy pops for you completing the game.
it's not Fallout. It's what's that Ubisoft
Far Cry.
game? Far Cry. Isn't like Far Cry, was it 4 where you used to, I never played this, so I just remember hearing about it where like
Far Cry 4 does it. What's that? Megan Ping, the Troy Baker character.
Pagan,
Uh,
right?
Pagan,
Pagan Min?
uh, Pagan Min. That was it. That
Yeah,
was it.
yeah.
His character does that as well. He
Okay.
tells you to wait as he goes tortures somebody, and then you wait there long enough. And sure enough, ever since then, Far Cry games have done that. The Far Cry 5 gives you the option of you go into the chapel of the cult, and they're like, just leave. And then if you just leave, if you don't try to arrest them, then you can just leave and you're end of game. Far Cry 6 does it a little bit better that at any given time, if you're on, because you have to go from island to island, if you're on a boat, just drive off the map, and then the next scene is you're on the beaches of like beach of Florida, listening to the radio about how the coup failed, or the over the and yeah, that's it. So
Okay.
I do like it when a game does that. It's kind of fun,
Kind
quirky,
of
and
secret
stupid.
endings are fun,
Yeah. So, but yeah, the rest of the game, it is funny. It has, but at the same time, it's once again, it's very specific kind of humor. So if you're not into it, like because people either love it or hate it, it's gotten pretty good reviews overall, and it has one too many dong jokes for me.
Never
But
too many dong jokes, but okay.
yep. So that's kind of it. It's just uh it's quirky fun. You go around slapping people, slapping things, breaking things, causing a mess, and people thank you for it. So it's I ended up beating the game first run, and I missed two trophies. I did everything else I unlocked naturally, except for that first, the one I had to look up for the waiting ending in the beginning. So outside of that, I got everything else on my own. And then one of the trophies was, oh, I didn't slap a thing enough times. It's like because I went around slapped everything, and it ended up taking me like 3.5 ish hours, I believe, to beat the game, something like that. Uh, and then knowing that I missed one trophy in the beginning for not slapping a person enough times, and then there was another one where the game is very linear structure. And there's a couple of neighborhoods or streets that you meet in this town, but you can only go in a linear fashion. So by the time you get to the end, it'll loop you back one way or another to a previous area, the next place you're supposed to go. And there was uh, the fishmonger, which like you're supposed to, slap. He sells cigarettes and fish, like
Hmm.
in the same bin. So apparently, if you slap the cigarette pack, the fish will pop out, and then if you slap the fish, then cigarettes pop out of their mouth. So I thought I slapped him enough, but apparently I must have missed it or something like that. So I had to do, but you have to do that like 3 different times to slap everything. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I must have missed and not did it all the first time, one of those times. turns out then if you speed run the game, if you just go to point A to point B, just do the main objectives, which there are certain cutscenes or dialogue scenes where you just cannot skip. But I think I did all that in like half an hour.
Okay.
So I pretty much speed ran that part in half an hour. I'm like, okay, it's actually a really fast game if you just go from A to B and you don't actually explore any the other stuff. But if you're not exploring it, then you're not missing out. You're kind of missing out on the extra quirkiness. If you're listening to their dialogue, like this one guy's talking about uh essentially calling in for a phone sex operator or something like, "You can talk to these ladies on the phone," like, because and then he's just then later on you go to meet someone else, and it's like, he's a gardener, and he's wearing, like, a green hat and overalls. I was like, "You green hat and overalls, you say? Well, you won't believe this," and then you kinda burst into the room. Um,
Huh.
there's there's a lot of these, like, just silly, bits, and it was like it had a pretty good charm to it, uh, and then even the background, like, there's, one character who she works at multiple different locations, and she is currently, like, in a relationship with someone else, and so you'll see, like, graffiti a little bit, like, the heart, her plus him, in the heart, and at a different location you see her name crossed out and you see another person's name put in. Um, and it's just later on you figure out who that person is, and that person treats her very like the first girl very poorly because she's obviously jealous.
Mm.
But it's kind of funny how that plays out. And once it was a good experience. I mean, it was just like it was a fun little game, had a great night of it, and if you have PlayStation Plus extras or premium, it's free. Um, but once again, it's like I think personally, it's like, I don't know, a solid, B, like an 80 or something like that, like, if I
Okay.
had to. I think I gave it a little higher score than I would just because of the length. It was a decent length, not too terribly long, had just enough humor and wit to keep me entertained. Um, if it was any longer or I think I probably would drop it to, like, somewhere in a C range, just
Okay.
because
Just would really
it
wear its welcome that way.
yeah, for me personally, but once again, I also got a little tired of the jokes. Some certain jokes were like, "Okay, yeah, I get it," or it's just, or maybe that's I'm like, I'm pretty sure that is a joke of a certain kind, but I think it's a maybe lost in translation thing. It's just
Mm.
like, on this side of the pond, we don't get it, but if I was, a UK resident or something like that, maybe that humor would hit a little harder. So um, overall, I think it was just a nice little fun thing. Uh, is it grand art or am I going to tell anyone not to run out there? I'm like, no, but if you have an evening to kill, I have most definitely spent. It's a better time than doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Better
which
than doom scrolling. And only, but only if you have PlayStation Plus Extra.
I mean, it's not that much. It's not that expensive of a
Yeah, I
game.
know. I
So
know.
and that's the other thing.
But
It's
I mean,
just
like
like,
that's the
well,
thing. It's like it's a good enough game, and it's like you already have it. If you already have extra, so you may as well. If you're looking for time to kill, you may as well do it.
yeah, because let's see here. It is currently 40% off on Steam, so it's like $12.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Uh, now, is it like a $20 game? That's I personally don't think so. So buy it on sale. But once again, it was still entertaining.
Yeah.
And now I guess to the other thing that I've been playing. So
Yeah. What is this?
I
Go ahead.
yeah. So uh I occasionally have things on, like, my Facebook Marketplace or just things that I've have on, like, a wish list kinda deal that I keep an eye out for a long time, and, um, I've kinda kept an eye out, for this for, I don't know, about 7 years-ish, um, and it's Rock Band, the drum set, because the drum set I never owned it. I owned the original Rock Band with guitar a long time ago, and I finally found, the Rock Band, Beatles, which, has just drum sets alone, even for Rock Band, the OG, like, they go for, like, 200 to 200 like, $300 for incomplete sets. No pedal, no sticks, busted. So I found this one for 250 for the drum, the guitar, even had I had the sticks, the microphone, the Beatles game, and it even had that little uh, Beatles cover that goes in front of it, making it look like it has a proper drum kit, like that says the Beatles on it. So it was a good proper set
Dude, yeah.
for. I mean, it's expensive, but it's still like, it's one of those things that I had I delved back into it because we had a lot of fun back in the late aughts when I used to work for GameStop, and we actually had a couple stores. We'd all get to some of the managers. We'd all get together with the part timers, and we'd just order a bunch of pizzas, and we had something like 12 people in a tiny ass one room apartment. And most of us were just standing on the side, leaning against the wall, or sitting all over the couches or whatever. And we would rotate out. So we would do like the long marathon track lists. And so we'd have like two guitarists, a drummer, a vocalist. And it's funny because those experiences, like that helped some of our friends like never experienced or knew like quote unquote classic rock or anything like that. They learned most of that from Rock Band, and
Wow.
certain songs I could never unhear without thinking of some certain vocalists that are of our friends.
Mm.
And it was just like all I can ever do is hear them specifically singing that song. Um, or if you're playing certain melodies, like I don't know, Crazy Train or something like that. All I can ever think of is the guitar, just the the annoying clicking of the guitar,
Oh yeah.
because
So
it's
yeah.
like the 8 notes just da 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 the entire time for like a long intro.
Uh,
And of course we would be like, all right, let's try foreplay long time or something like that. And it was good memories, but also I never owned the drum because I didn't have a space for it, and also I'm terrible at drums. Just that the concept of working the pedal and the sticks at the same time. But I had a nephew a handful of years ago, or some nephews that were getting into percussions for school, and then
mm.
I'm like, "Oh, that was cool. Let me just look it up and see if it's cheap enough, and I'll just buy it for them when I was overseas, and I'll just mail it to them." And I'm like, "Oh, what the hell? These are stupid expensive." And because when the gaming the plastic instrument market, bubble popped,
Mm.
uh, no one kept, like it's a weird thing to say. Uh, Only guitars remained, and the drum kits were a lot harder to come across. Um,
Yeah.
so it was one of those things that like I've now gotten myself a new drum kit. It was had a little bit of battery damage, so I went ahead and used some white vinegar and with a Q-tip swab and cleaned that out pretty thoroughly. Helped to dissolve that, and then I used baking soda, water to help neutralize some of that acidity, and then just to make sure everything is dry, I used a high proof alcohol um, to just make sure everything dried out, pretty thoroughly, and then it seems to work just fine. So I was actually pretty stoked about that. Uh, my kids are still just a little too young to do the drum portion, but some of the guitar stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's easy enough for them to do.
Mhm.
So,
That'll be
uh,
cool. Yeah, they'll probably really enjoy that, especially as they grow into it. Because there's not really any games like that right now. I mean, maybe there will be, but that was sort of a time and place thing that has kind of passed, and that'll be really cool for them, I think.
yeah. So the other thing is, I actually had a bunch of Rock Band previous DLC songs on my Xbox 360 account.
Mm.
And I still have so that was the thing is I had to dust off my old Xbox 360, which at first I plugged it in and the power brick didn't work, and I'm like, "Oh snap! What the heck happened here?" So then I tried plugging it into a different outlet instead of the power strip. That didn't work. I left it unplugged for a little bit, and then I tried plugging it in again later, just directly into the wall, and then it did work magically. So I'm like, "Okay, cool." It happened to work magically after I had already Amazon myself a new power brick.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. The
Yeah,
perfect
so
time.
now I have a spare power brick, which I can return, but it's just kind of silly and stupid. Luckily, they're not too terribly expensive. They used to be outrageously expensive. And
Yeah.
the the other thing is, I've kind of been looking at for an excuse to mod an old 360 because they're apparently pretty easy to mod to do homebrew stuff. So I'm kind of curious 'cause I remember when I was overseas seeing people uh, just be able to mod them and use external, little laptop hard drives, and then just USB that in for the external storage. I'm like, okay, so I'm kind of wanting to play with that now and just see what I can do. Uh,
I remember when that was going on, during that time. I remember um, people that I knew more people closely, personally, that had PS5s, or sorry, not PS5s, PS3s, and I think somebody had modded theirs, but I think a friend of a friend had modded their Xbox 360, and we talked about it, and it was like there's a little bit of expense to it, and there was like it was like a big risk because I mean it was newer back then, so and it was really expensive just to have a Xbox 360. So we were like, yeah, that's like I don't want to play free games that bad, you know, because the risk involved was pretty tough. But yeah, I remember that being a thing at the time. So I imagine, especially now, I'm sure that thing is broken wide open.
yeah, so it's one of those things I get to play with, but also there's the main Rock Band games are pretty cheap. You just can't get really the DLC any other way because
Mm.
360 Marketplace is closed down now. Uh, you can still download anything else you've already purchased in the past, and it's funny because even some of my local libraries still actually have the old Rock Band games. So I didn't realize they made a Lego Rock Band game, but I currently have that waiting for me thanks to the library. So I'm
Mm.
like, okay, let's see what songs they have on this track list. But yeah, it's a good way to party like it's 2009 all over again. So, uh,
uh,
we had a lot of really good memories with just like I said, with that many people crammed into tiny apartments with the manager, like other GameStop employees, and we would just tag out, who wants next song, and we would just play, the long, hour long, playlists. And of course, some people were like, just absolutely outrageously good, and it was
yeah.
insane. Because it was always bragging rights, like how many of the employees can do, Fire and Flame, on the hardest difficulty, and
Was a
then
Dragon Force through the fire and the
yeah,
flames? Yeah.
yep, and then of course you're like, you got the one person like, well, I got to rubber band the green button, rubber banded, so it's always pressed down. So then I'm like, and the other people are like, no, man, you got to do it for real. Yes. It was a different time. So yeah, it's also one of those things that's like having to deal with that battery issue. I went ahead and I was trying to find like, okay, I have to find enough AA batteries to plug into everything else. So I had a few rechargeable AA's, and then I'm going through some of my other stuff. I'm like, okay, let me go downstairs and grab my uh, Xbox Series controller, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, what the heck? I haven't played this thing in like maybe a year. But one of my batteries busted. It kind of exploded in my Xbox Series X controller. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's in a basement. It's not like extreme temperatures. It's not in the sun. This battery is just cheap as hell. And then I found my old guitars from from the late aughts. They were in storage for a long time with my in-laws while I was overseas. And when I moved back here, I got the stuff, but I just threw it in the closet. Completely forgot about it. So I was like, okay, let me grab those guys. I know I have a wired controller guitar back there. So I went to grab that. And then I realized I'm like, okay, I have two Guitar Hero wireless controllers. Go to grab them, open up the battery pack. Sure enough, I have batteries in those that I left since forever. Completely fine. None of them exploded. And I'm like, the logic or how it's made, I have no idea, but I had these controllers literally in there for since I don't know, 2010. And who knows how long they were before that. But yeah, it's just like those batteries are perfectly fine, but a brand new battery that I had put in like not even a year and a half ago exploded into my controller. I'm stupidly pissed that this state of it's just like, yeah, it's big battery trying to just mess up all our stuff. I don't know, whatever conspiracy theory you want to have in there, but I'm like, they are not made the same. And the batteries that survived were like the cheap Rayovac batteries.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. You never know. I mean, it's, you know, the conditions that they were under might be slightly different, you know, and just the build from them might just be slightly different, or the run of that from that line or whatever. So you just never know with batteries. They're kind of a crapshoot as to whether or not that's going to happen to them.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it was disappointing because I'm like, dude, that controller, my 360 controller, is just been in my basement untouched for like a year.
Yeah.
So I guess the moral is just remove batteries all the time, but that's an annoying way to have to live because
Mm.
you shouldn't have to have batteries on standby for the things that you want. Like
Usually batteries are okay. I mean, but then again, I mean, yeah, that's one of those weird things. Like a year should probably not really, unless they get, hit or they're just bad somehow. But yeah, that's one of those things that you just never know. If you really care about it and you're going to pack it away, it probably is best just take the batteries out.
those Rayovac batteries have the expiration date on. Those expiration dates were like 2011. And
Mm,
those were just fine. And here we are with mine that was still technically good until next year that exploded in my
well,
Xbox
they
controller.
don't make them like
So,
they used to, I guess. So.
yeah, for sure. You gotta cut corners somehow. So, all right. Uh, that's just my dumb little retro gaming news there. I will, if I do anything fun with the Xbox itself, I will be sure to let you know, come back to it, see how the home brewing goes. All right then. Now to what we've been watching. Nick, well, what have you been watching?
So I've been hearing about this show for a while now. I think it came out before Christmas. Um, like a little ways before Christmas. A Netflix show called The Beast in Me. Um, so this came up on my Netflix, and I was like, yeah, it looks like some kind of show. I like Claire Danes. So she's the star in this, Claire Danes, and Matthew Reese. I think that's how it's pronounced. There's kind of the two main stars. So Claire Danes, most recently of Homeland fame. That's the show, right? Uh,
That is a show. I don't know if she's in it, but that is a show.
that is a
I never watched
show,
it.
and she is also a person. Homeland, yeah, Homeland. Most recently of Homeland fame. And then Matthew Reese, most recently and most famously of The Americans. So that kind of gives you an idea of those main two characters. Um, so when this popped up on my Netflix, I was like, okay, this kind of just looks like. I gotta be honest, like the cover with her like kind of covered in blood just didn't really. For some reason, it just made me think that it was just dumb for some reason. But I heard on a couple different podcasts that were not about TV shows, where the podcasts are out of their way or went out of their way to say, "Hey, this show is really good. This show is like really good." So I was like, "Okay." And then my mom was like, "Hey, this show is really good. You should watch it." And I was like, "All right." So I started to watch it, and I got about 15 minutes, 30 minutes in, and I was like, okay, I get it. I get what the hype is. So it's it's set in the present day, and it's not filmed like a lot of other Netflix shows. It's not filmed in the way that we bag on Netflix shows for, where everything is blown out and it's like full light everywhere. This show actually has depth and um, kind of a like cinematic quality. It's honestly filmed almost not green tinted like a lot of horror movies are, but besides that, it's almost filmed like a horror movie in a lot of ways. And what it's about generally is Claire Danes is a writer who has writer's block, is the simplest way to put it. And um, her money is running out, and she's going to lose her house, maybe. So you've seen that, kind of story a million times. But so she had a big hit book, and so she made a bunch of money, but now she's out of money. So she lives in a nice neighborhood, but she's about to lose her house. Um, and next door to her, or down the street from her, moves in Matthew Reese's character by the name of Niall Jarvis. And Now Jarvis is rich and famous, but he also happens to be infamous. Um, it's a little bit of an OJ situation where um, where Nile Jarvis had his wife uh, has disappeared, and nobody ever found her body, but they suspect that he murdered her, and they had a trial where he was not found guilty um, of her murder, or he was found not guilty of her murder, and but everyone's like, we know you did it, we just like can't prove it. And so that's kind of the situation that like you're coming into like at the beginning of the show. And then and so the rest of the show is it the plot thickens. There's a lot of little things that are going on. There is a pretty serious backstory.
So, is she or is the missing the wife, the missing wife, she's missing presumed dead, or did they actually find that she's dead?
So
That is
that's
the
the thing,
trial.
is that she's missing presumed dead. They never find her body.
Okay.
And they don't really go into like how or why they had thought they had enough information to try Nile Jarvis. They just basically say that they did, and that and they maybe they don't even say they did, but basically the the point that you end up with is everyone thinks that he killed his wife. Nobody can prove it. Um, and so Claire Danes' character has a lot of stuff in her past that comes to that you would see as you watch the first episode. I'm not going to get like all the way into it because I don't want to get too much in spoilers. And then there's a lot of side characters that are kind of doing things, but the cast is not too big. And everybody has something to do, everything with like significant time, and has like a significant role in the person's or in the main character's lives. They have something to do, and so it doesn't just like it makes them feel like more real. I would say, but yeah, it's like after about halfway through that first episode, it's like, okay, this is pretty compelling. This is pretty compelling because, um, because where they get to early on in the show is Claire Danes' character doesn't like, or her name is Aggie. So Aggie doesn't like Niall, but figures out that Niall needs someone to write his biography, more or less. And she needs a compelling book to write in order to like get her mojo back. And so they don't like each other, but they end up kind of needing each other. And then there's the whole like, did he kill his wife? Didn't he kill his wife? And then there's a lot of the personal stuff that Claire Danes is going through. So it's very efficient. It's only like 8 episodes, but it's very efficient with its time. But it also doesn't feel like it's short. It doesn't feel like it's long. And it's sort of like I don't want to like reduce it down to a whodunit, but there's a little bit of a whodunit ism to it, and just really good, compelling story overall. I could see what everybody was talking about, and I think that it's merited. It's probably not a show for everybody, but I think that there are some places in it where if you really scrutinized it, like there's like probably some places that it's jumping ahead for the sake of time, and in real life it would probably take 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years for this connection to be made from here to here, but they're not, but they kind of want to keep the pace going, so they don't really do that. So there's things like that that are definitely in the show, But overall, it was definitely an enjoyable watch. And I think that if you're into anything that I just talked about, um, sort of pseudo true crime, it has a true crime feel to it, but it's a little bit too bombastic for that. But if it like if you're into like pseudo true crime, then I think this is probably for you.
All right, cool. Yeah, it seems to have a pretty favorable, outlook on most of it. So, like a lot of the review sites. And here we go. So what I've been watching is, well, there's all right. So new anime season's out. A lot of things, all around. There's there's some that are obviously going to be headliners. You got Oshinoko, the new season, season 3. You have a new season of Farron that just came out. So, but people who already know those are going to watch those. So I'm not going to really say much about that.
At least not yet.
But yeah, not yet. Um, I am going to say something that caught me by surprise because I didn't know about it beforehand. Is this rom com called "You and I Are Polar Opposites"? It's it's about I believe they're high school students, and the main character is Miyu Suzuki, and she is a gyaru, so she's just she has pink hair. She actually has her hair done up in little buns, kind of like not quite Sailor Moon style. Um, and she's just overly joyful, very bubbly character, and she likes this kid named Tani. He is uh, he is just a wooden plank with glasses, essentially. He has but the thing is he apparently just says that he's a straight talker. He just, and she absolutely likes him, loves him a lot. The This is a really funny and really entertaining watch. Right now, it looks like it's being simulcasted. So there's one episode out. It's supposed to be 12 total, and it's already in English as well. I watched it in English. The voice casting is pretty awesome, and it's yeah, it's just funny all around. I can't really say much else without it. I just kind of want people to come in and experience it. It does more in one episode than like entire other series do. Uh, it's it is very well animated, and it just has the right vibe. The music's kind of there and fun, or the background music at least. The Apparently it is a or it was a serialized series that was shown in Jump Plus.
Mm.
It was from it ran for like 2 years, so I think it's total of like 8 volumes, 65 chapters, but it's been finished since 2024. So it is a complete story. So in theory, I'm not sure if they can get the whole thing out in one season, but they could probably get it down in 2 seasons. But at least it's it's done, and therefore you don't have to worry about them questionably screwing up at the ending or something like that, or messing with it too much. Um, yeah, it's a complete surprise. My spouse and I watched it. We absolutely loved it. Recommended to a couple friends right out the gate. It's a real joy to have something that you were just kind of blindsided on. Because, like I said, we already know as a collective, like, certain things like Firin or Oshinoko or stuff like that. Like, okay, yeah, but this to be more or less unknown to me and to have such a good time watching it. Uh, yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Unless if you are only the person who do like, I need only action. you know, I'm
Only
only shonen,
shonen. Yeah.
seinen. It's like if it's not Finlandia, it's nothing. Like okay, then if it's not Attack on Titan, it's not good enough. I'm like, all right, fine. Um,
Yeah.
but if you're only into that hardcore lifestyle, then okay, fine, this isn't for you. But if you
I
want
mean,
something to make you laugh and have a good time, yes.
it's something that I kind of like about anime is that you can tell how how much a studio believes in a show, basically how good the show is, or at least how good the studio believes the show is, based on the animation. And I'm not talking like when things are really like moving, but just like the quality of the stills, the quality of the line work and stuff like that. And that's something you can't really tell with live action. There's plenty of live action shows where it's like this looks ho hum or looks like anything else, but then the dialogue's good or the writing is good or the story itself is nice or they pop off and do cool effects sometimes, but the normal part of the show is the slower part of the show is kind of boring or whatever. But with this show, yeah, like immediately, I didn't get to watch very much of it before I had to turn it off, but I did take a quick peek at it, and yeah, you can tell that they are trying with this, and it's the characters immediately have personality. That's I can't tell if it's overdone yet, but it's definitely not underdone. It's definitely not like the guy, yeah, is like a wooden board, but he is also like somebody that we've all known. Um, just very plain and bookish, but also kind of I don't know if this bears out through the rest of the episode, but confident in his wooden, you know, nerdy bookishness. Um, I would say.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the way they portray him in the beginning is very true to himself, and so he doesn't like he's just him, doesn't cave to conformities. Um, the main the main girl, Suzuki, she is almost feels like she'd be annoying, but then they give her a lot of different aspects to her personality. At one point, she looks just dead-eyed into the camera, um, and almost yandere-esque,
Mhm.
but like not quite. And it's like you can't. It's kind of hard to read. But then she's like, but the way she just deadpans internal monologuing, saying how much she loves the main character is hilarious. Um, yeah, it's at one point she's trying to engage with her crush, and because she's just going out of her way to ask him a bunch of questions, and he's just shooting her down or just saying, "I don't have much of a thought on that," because and he's just being honest and truthful about it. But she's almost manic, and it's funny because she kind of reminds me of My Dress Up Darling when was it Kanan, the main girl? She's trying to get one of the other cosplayers, character named Juju, to come out with them, or to every time she tries to ask to hang out. It's kind of like the straight man, funny man bit where Juju is the straight man, and she instantly shoots her down, like without a second thought, not even a heartbeat. Just the moment questions asked, she pops it off, and then Kanan, the main girl, is just manically laughing, like "You shot me down again," isn't like just laughing it off in uh she kind of does that, like the Suzuki here does that kind of mentality, which is interesting. I actually watched a little bit of it in Japanese just to see how the voices were, and the Japanese is also equally good. I think I personally like the English, just for myself, but either way is fine, and they're both pretty solid. So that once again, surprise hit, only one episode, but I am most definitely in for it, and you know, I have a good feeling about it. Uh, Complain about it later if I was completely wrong, and if it just jumps the shark or it goes somewhere. Turns out it's about a serial killer. What? No, like if it goes completely left instead of right in his eggs or something, then I'll talk about it later. But I honestly think this is one of the ones, one of my front runners, especially since I had no idea about this. So, all right, that's about it for what I've been watching. We'll talk more about anime next week because that'll be like week 3 of a lot of stuff,
Right.
and so we can really start to get in. And there's there's a lot to talk about. So that's for another time. All right, then, Nick, what do you got for us for the news?
Okay. So not a ton of news. Um, right now, I mean, it's all the big stuff happened at the end of last year, so definitely makes sense. There's not a lot of games coming out. I've been trying to look for a new game, like a released recently game, like released this year game to play, and it's been pretty hard in general to find that. So there's just not too much, but there is a couple interesting things that I was able to um, glean. So the biggest news right now um, is not particularly video game related, but it is entertainment world related, and it's that Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down at Lucasfilm. So I could have my history wrong a little bit, I'm pretty sure I don't. Whenever George Lucas sold Lucasfilm, sold Star Wars to Disney, right before the deal went through, he stepped down and appointed Kathleen Kennedy as the president or the runner of the studio, and that put Disney in kind of a hard spot because at that point he was basically saying, I want this person to take over after I'm gone. And so so Disney uh, decided to stay with her and let her run the studio as they made Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, and then some of these other shows and stuff like that. I'm sure she's been involved with quite a bit. So her stepping down, as far as I can tell, is sort of the last vestige of George Lucas's influence over Lucasfilm and over Star Wars in general. So it is a little bit of a actual end to the George Lucas era of Star Wars, which is kind of weird to say, but Star Wars seems like it's going to continue on in some form or another with Disney. And anyway, so I wanted to bring this up because I think it's a demarcation line, and I think that now is the time to keep an eye on Star Wars again. You and I rag on Star Wars quite a bit because of the travesty that it has become in some ways, especially with 8 and 9. 9 being just a complete dumpster fire of a movie.
You forgot your favorite Solo. You love that one.
I mean, Solo, as unnecessary as it looks like Citizen Kane compared to Episode 9. I mean, but that's a story for another time.
But yes, under Kathleen Kennedy's watch, you had, from The Force Awakens all the way through Willow, so
Oh yes, Willow.
and, like the new series that they tried bringing back. Um, and there was a lot of fans because she's she ran the ship. Like they put it solely on her, which I can see there is reason to be upset because if the at the end of the day they are the ultimate power behind that studio,
Mhm.
and they should have reined some things in and try to get things under control at least a little bit. A lot of fans were super happy when rumors happened last year about Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, and then quickly it got so out of hand that they had to come out with a press statement saying like, no, she's not coming, she's not stepping down. Then
I
she came out
forgot
saying,
about that. That's where we had the Kathleen Kennedy Strikes Back episode, right?
yeah, and then
Yeah.
she turned around and said like no, I'm sticking around, and it's just like it reminds me of that Simpsons quote of like where Bart's like, they're being meta about their own show, but like, Bart's like, if I had a series, I'd just run it into the ground, or pretty much, just let it play forever. And it's kind of,
Yeah.
that was always like, that's the fan, fear was like, oh no, she's taking all the beloved IP, Indiana Jones, because the last ones were such bangers. And um it's like there's no the new all any of the new Star Wars TV shows, Acolyte and whatnot. It's just like,
Yeah, there's bad ones for sure. I heard Obi-Wan was not really great either, Acolyte, but the Mandalorian is really good overall. But Boba Fett was not good until the Mandalorian came into it, and then it was all right. And then Andor, both seasons of that were pretty compelling. So it's not
I think Andor is the outlier of it all. The Mandalorian was a cultural phenomenon more than anything else. They had the right marketing, and unfortunately, it led to the wrong things because The Mandalorian was one of the early works that came in, and they're like, "You know what works? Having a mascot sellable character, Baby Yoda, alright."
yeah.
And now because of that, we have to have sellable mascot characters in everything, and it kind of soured because they took all the wrong things from it, and they're like, "We're gonna
Yeah,
make everything
I mean, in
this."
in some ways, that is kind of a Star Wars tradition now, with like Ewoks and like, I mean,
Well,
BB-8
even
obviously, but
they not even BB-8, they even still had the other furry creatures too in that same Star Wars movie next to BB-8,
yeah,
this little thing that ran on the ship, and that's the thing, it's just like that's also Disney too,
yeah,
for what it is, it's like, I mean, you had that new, Predator, movie, or, like, that had, like, we have to have derpy, cute mascot sellable sidekick thing, creature,
yeah.
um, so I'm like, it's a Predator movie, you don't why? You should see it, and then it should stab it because it's a predator.
It should,
Whatever.
yeah, it should look like it wants to kill you. Yeah, so I guess the biggest part of this Kathleen Kennedy thing is like I think that from this point, Star Wars is either going to get markedly better or markedly worse. It depends on who they bring in, obviously, but I really don't know which way it's going to go. I think my my bet is that it has like a 55 to 60% chance to get better. Um, but there's also a there's also like a part of my mind where I'm like, the die may be cast, and anybody that does come in may just be overruled and shouted down and be totally scared to do anything, or not allowed to do anything the least bit adventurous, and it might just get even that much, more, just more cookie cutter, and just even worse. But it is an interesting time, at least for Star Wars, because of, I mean, we all want Star Wars to be good. It's it's kind of played out, I think, and I think it's the ideas of it are kind of old, so I don't really hold out much hope. But I think we all want it to be good. We all want it to be fun again. We all want that. I think there's room for that. Um, and I just think it's now is a good time to maybe not watch Star Wars, but watch what happens with Star Wars.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is interest isn't gonna be, this is gonna be the peak of the collective interest for the next, film, the
Right.
next big undertaking, because unfortunately it's hit, a cultural low. The fact that multiple shows have been canceled. There was that Star Wars kinda spin-off show with, was it Jude Law? It was like, a bunch of kids going through, like Goonies in space or something like that.
Mm,
Um, I can't remember, like,
yeah.
no. Yeah, once again, exactly. Yeah, that it existed.
No, as much as I love Jude Law is a movie killer. If he's in a movie, it's almost certainly going to tank. I don't know if that one did well or not. I don't know if it was good or anything like
So,
that.
the reception was okay, but the problem is by that, because it was post Acolyte, the collective was pretty much already checked out.
Yeah.
Um, and so it really depends on what direction, uh, the mouse wants to go in, because I find whatever person is gonna head, Lucasfilms is just gonna be a puppet. And so it's just like
Yeah.
they're like, it's like they're gonna come into the office, sit down, and be like, "Okay, what's my agenda? Tell me what I need to do. I will just nod my exactly, just
Yeah.
you know, uh, and I think that's exactly what it's gonna be. It's like, how tell me, as the new president of Lucas, how we're gonna make money. How can
Yeah.
we market things, and let's just take it from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I think you're right about that. I think it's it's an interesting time at the very least. Yeah.
all right. Well, I guess to some people they are going to be ecstatic because Kathleen Kennedy stepped down. In the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make much difference because the damage has already been done. So yeah. All right. So what else you got for us?
Um, so this was weird. I don't really know how much stock to put in it, but um, there was a Reddit post and some people on Reddit. There's always a group of people on Reddit who have a theory about Monster Hunter Wilds uh, and its performance when you have a lot of DLC versus when you don't have any DLC. So, um, this is coming from one particular player. Um, well, I guess a couple players who kind of tested some things, and they found that there were performance issues in Monster Hunter Wilds where they didn't see any reason for there to be. Like there was basically we're talking about frame rate here, and the frame rate was dropping way, way, way down when that to their in their opinion it shouldn't be, and they thought it was very strange. And so they compared their performance with their friend's performance, and their friend, uh, their version of the game, same spots, had no problems, was performing great. And so they just couldn't figure it out. And then the friend, according to this person, noticed that they, the one with the higher performance, had a lot of DLC, had like all the DLC. And the one with the low performance, the bad performance and frame rate, had no DLC. So that's very odd. And so what they did from there is they made a mod that made the game think that they have all the DLC. Not that they actually had it, not that they didn't steal DLC or anything. They just basically told the game on the checkbox, like, do you have this DLC? They just told it, like, yes. And after they did that, the performance went through the roof. It was like amazing. Like the frame rate was like amazing. And so they have like apparently reached out to Capcom. This is a thing where they have like like this group apparently has found bugs in other Capcom games. But I thought this one was very interesting because it seems like on the face that the game is punishing people for not having DLC and rewarding people for spending money on DLC. So I just thought that was very strange. And if I happen to see, I'm going to try to keep track of this story. And if it comes, out like one way or another, then I'm just very interested to see how this goes because it doesn't make Capcom look particularly good if what seems to be happening is actually happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's kind of a weird concept, the idea of like, um, if you have, maybe if you have the full thing, it's like you're bridging all the gaps, filling in, it's like, um, filling in the code or like, potholes in the road. But then you're like, well, you didn't pay for everything, so we have to circumvent and we're
Maybe.
omitting. Yeah, I don't know. But it's neat that they have this code, and I'm kind of curious. So can anyone just take that code, put it in, just to trick it to think it has the DLC?
Well, that's what they said. Is they made this mod, and that seems to be doing it. And so,
But
and
knowing Capcom, I'm just afraid they're going to be like, you're trying to hack our thing, and then we're going to try to brick your, we're going to try to start blocking people or something.
well, like I think legally they would have the right. I imagine based on the EULA. I haven't read the EULA obviously, but if it's like every other EULA anywhere ever, it's basically says we have the right to brick your copy of the game for any time for any reason. And so this would definitely constitute any time or any reason. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I imagine that Capcom is probably either going to be silent on this or they're going to say, "Oh, thanks, we fixed it," and whether or not they actually did or not. But it's more than just. It apparently is more than just like one or two players. There is like a group, and this group has kind of spotted and fixed things in the past. So I think, at least according to the one article I read, so I think that there is some amount of legitimacy to this, but it does. I am also like, wait a second, like I need more corroboration than just one article reporting on one or two people saying this when they have something to gain out of it. But anyway, so interesting to me.
Yeah. All right. All right. I went ahead and added this into the docket. So, Nintendo's share prices has dropped 33% in the last 5 months, and it is speculated that it's it's uncertain, but it's over the potential price increase may have contributed to the decline. So yeah, turns out if you increase the price of your games for a bunch of kid titles that maybe parents aren't going to be so willing and younger kids aren't going to be able to afford to buy your
So,
expensive stuff.
so what's the price now? Is it 70
I think it was currently it's like 62. It was like uh
a yen
9,950 yen.
in terms of yen?
Uh
Okay, yeah.
yen. So yeah, it's just under 10,000 yen.
Okay.
So
So they went
which is like
from what 50? Well, where Switch games? There was the Switch games were 60, right?
um so yeah, as far as the Switch goes, I honestly haven't bought a Switch game in ages.
Yeah, I
So
can't
you're
remember
talking
either.
to the wrong. You're the one who had you were more into the Switch than I was.
It's been
Um
years though, but I think they were 60. So going up, and then they had their own. Like they did try because they had the Japan language only Switch 2, which was significantly cheaper. So you could tell they were trying to give the good Japanese people a break, in terms of the new kit and stuff like that. But maybe it's just
well,
too
the
much.
but the
So
pricing that I had mentioned was for the shares, not for the actual gaming themselves. Because yeah, their
oh,
shares, that's what dropped, is the shares themselves,
but
so their stock.
okay, yeah.
So Nintendo stock dropped because of the expensive, and it's not because, well, there's no direct, they haven't found out definitively, but it seems to be the impact based off the expensive gaming.
Okay, so alternate idea. Um, so Nintendo just released the Switch 2. It's successful. Um, Everybody can see that it's successful. Everyone can see that they're going to keep making a lot of money off of games and stuff like that. Um, but this is but this is probably a high point. So 33% is a good bit. I would imagine that a significant amount of the drop can be attributed to people kind of reading the tea leaves and going, Nintendo is probably not going to be this high in terms of just overall success for a while. So what I'm going to do, because I own stock, is I'm going to go ahead and sell it, and that will drive the price down if people are trying to get rid of the stock. But they might be trying to.
Most people wouldn't try to sell stock before the holiday season, though. That's the thing, because this is over the last 5 months. What happened during the last 5 months? You had the holiday season, so
Yeah,
usually it would go up. For it to drop during that time frame is a bad outlook. Uh,
I think that it's. I don't think it can all. I don't think it can all be attributed to people's perception of the price being too high or whatever. I do think that there is a little bit, if not quite a bit, of like, hey, I can recoup my money now. I can make money off of the stock now, and so I'm going to do that. But yeah, I mean, it probably is just uh, I don't know. It's kind of hard to read. It's hard to read
well,
what stock
between
price.
between expensive games and between not having a lot of killer games out there,
Yeah, that's true too.
I can see it being having a harder than normal holiday season, and then from that, like I said, most people would like to hold. Like usually, stock goes up for a lot of tech companies during the holiday season. You would see it shortly after, right after the holiday, for it to start to plummet because people
Like
are like,
now.
now I'm selling high.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh, so that the fact that it happened during the best time of the year, in theory, and it's still going down. That means there's more than one issue at play. I think it's partial expensive games, partial not enough games that people want. If they had a couple killer games over the holiday season, that'd be a different story. And you know, just like the reason, like you've been stating, how you have yet to find a reason to own a Switch. You're literally like starting to have a list of games. Like this is another reason to own a Switch 2. Once it hits a certain threshold, you're like, now I can finally go commit to it. But until then, I think that Donkey Kong game just isn't swinging it for you, huh?
No,
So
the Donkey Kong and Metroid Prime 4 are not really doing it for me enough. There are some games that are like on only on Steam and Switch 2, and so some of those I'm like, yeah, this might be more comfortable to just have, but I think I'm gonna have to wait for kind of like a tentpole title, which I really don't think that those are tentpole titles. Like they would say that they are, but they're just not to me. Before I can get that, but if you believe in Nintendo as a company, then um, my philosophy with stock is if you believe in the company, then it's beneficial a lot of the time, but not always, to buy the dip. That's what I try to do. Is I try to buy the dip. It's like I know this company is good. I know that they're going to continue to make good stuff, and that they're not really going anywhere. They just have some bad news, and that is a time that I try to buy stock, and it tends to work out pretty well. If you buy stock after the good news, you're going to be in for a pain point. Usually, it's usually after you buy stock after the bad news, as long as it's not earth shaking or world ending, then you tend to make a little bit of money off the stock, or at least the price tends to go up from where you bought it usually. But yeah.
all right, yeah. Why don't you continue on with the rest of the news?
Um. So yeah. So there was a new Life is Strange game announcement that leaked due to a European ratings board. Um. And so people were like, "Whoa, okay, new Life is Strange game, what?" And then so Square Enix just recently confirmed that yes, it is real, and that it has an announcement event on Tuesday, January 20th. I guess depending on your time zone, but on January 20th, and they're going to talk about it. I don't know if they were already planning that or if they had to move up their plans because of the leaked announcement or whatever. But if they were already doing stuff with the ratings board, they probably had stuff pretty well ready to go. But anyway, so if you're interested in Life is Strange, then good news. There's going to be more.
Yeah, the last one that they recently came out with was pretty well received. There was a couple middling ones before that, but the most recent one was overall, I think, well received. And a buddy of mine just actually bought it for the holiday because they're currently playing through the entire series. They like the first one, and then I'm like, oh, that's an interesting route you're choosing, just to go through them all. So
Well,
good luck on that.
this one too seems to be bringing back Max Caulfield, which she was not the main character in some of the recent ones, and she's like she's like one of the main characters or the main character from like the first one. I think I never played it, but yes, people are excited about kind of that return to form there. But yeah, so good news for people who like Stranger Things. I mean,
All
like
right.
Life is Strange. Sorry,
Life is Strange Things,
Life
yes.
is Stranger Things. Yeah. All
All
right.
right then. What else we got?
Last thing. Fans think that a Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, that remasters for those games are about to be revealed slash announced. Um, there's a long Kotaku article on why people think it's happening, why the people at Kotaku think that it's not happening, and all the real evidence that it is maybe happening. And I didn't want to read all of it, but you can if you want to. So it just, to me, it makes sense though, because it's like now is I mean, just if they're not doing it, then it would have been a good idea to do it because the show is going on right now. The finale will be here in a couple weeks, few weeks. Um, I imagine that like the first season, the amount of players that Fallout has goes up whenever the new season came out. So having a remaster kind of ready to go right as that season ended would be a good idea to maybe sell some units on something that probably would be a good idea to remaster anyway. Also, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a season 3 of Fallout, the show. It probably will. It seems to be popular enough and good enough, but you just never know. So from the success of the last show to now, they maybe had enough time to get some remasters together. I don't know, but either way, if they don't do it, I feel like it is a missed opportunity, and if they do it, then people figured it out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, people were talking about how they should have done this for a while now, especially since, and then there was that fan mod for the I forget what it was, the UK Fallout, I guess, mod
Okay.
that people put in, and so there's still a lot of love for Fallout. People want it, especially people love New Vegas to no end. They recently had the Bethesda, or the teams have already did. Was it Morrowind? Recently, was it
Right.
Morrowind, or
Yeah. It
you know,
was. It was Morrowind.
or was it Oblivion?
It might have been
Um,
Oblivion.
yeah,
I'm gonna
so
go.
yeah, because I think it was Oblivion, and it's like that also then turned around and had problems on consoles. Yeah, like slowing it down again. Just like back in Skyrim, back on the PS3, which I unfortunately own that one.
It was Oblivion. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm okay with them. It's all right if they want to remaster it, but I think there's enough good mods out there that can just, you know,
Honestly, yeah. That's like
I understand it's for the console people who want to play a newer version. It's hard to play the old, you know, Xbox 360, version.
yeah.
Uh, so
All for all the filthy casuals. Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the best way to play it is to that somebody needs to put out a package where it's like, okay, here's the game, and then here's the mods to play it at like the simply just consensus agreed upon by the community, like best stuff. So like you definitely need this, you definitely need this mod, you definitely need that mod, and it's maybe not too much, but it's definitely better than the original game. Here you go. Like I think that's probably there's probably a package, there's probably a good forum on Reddit out there about that. So
yeah, without a doubt. All right, guys. I think that's it for the news. So if you made it this far, we appreciate it. Uh, this has been ADP, episode 160. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there today?
yeah. You want to make sure that you always take all of the batteries out of everything that you have um, every day and put them safely away in a fireproof, acid-proof box, even if it's very annoying and irritating.
Yep. Rip out all the batteries and everything, fire alarms, pacemakers, the whole works.
Sorry, Grandma.
No. It's for your own good. You don't want that battery exploding in you. Um, yeah. All right. Well, guys, uh, as always, don't listen to us. Listen to us, but don't listen to us. Don't heed our advice. Put it that way. All right, guys. Once again, this is ADP. Until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.